Okay, everybody, you see we're all back over. Okay, everybody, you see we're back here over to my dad's shop, and that's right, B&B wraps and. Of course I do, you know. Black, 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 black. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Sunday Live. Yeah, I threw my little blooper reel back up there. What's going on? Dean Stevenson, our friendly Kiwi. What's going on, Dean? Great to see you, man. And we got Mr. Lars himself just slid right on in there. What's going on, man? Great to see you. Well, today I went out and I decided to get that old Ford to start. That 71 Lincoln that I ended up with. I had it all set, had timing all done up on it, and dropped a new distributor down, put an Edelbrock carburetor on it that I pulled off of another one that did run, so I knew I didn't have to fiddle with any of that. Set the timing perfect so she'd fire right on the first stop or first pop. It's easy to do with excuse me, with points, because you can get right in there and you can dial it right over until the points are just about to close, and then put the cap on it and boom, you're ready to go. Anyway, long story short, or short story long, I guess. Fired it up and boom, she kicked right on the first go. And she'd kind of run for a little while and she'd choke up and couldn't get her to go. She'd die. Fire it up again. She'd fire right up and die. What the hell? I got the timing off or something. Something going on. Looking around, I checked everything. Everything checked out. Got her to fire again. I let her run on choke on fast idle a little bit. Coughing and coming down. All of a sudden, boom! I shot hornets and mice and everything out of the exhaust. They had filled up the muffler clear full. The mice had packed a little bit of everything in there. As soon as it blew the muffler out and scattered everything all up against my shop door, yeah, boom, she come right up. She idled right down, smoothed right out. At that 460 that you seen in my little bitty shorts and stuff, I'm pretty sure that those miles on the odometer are correct. So long story short, she fired right up, smoothed right out, no blow by, ring steel seal, everything's good to go. So that's my little adventure I had today. Oh, look at there. We got Slow Shopping Customs. What's going on? Aloha to you too. And then up over on the other side of the mountains from me, we got Tim's 72 Demon. What's going on, man? Great to see you. You're up in the higher Rockies. Philip the Third. What's going on, my friend? Great to see you. Mohawk 62. What's going on? And we got the Doc in the house. Doc Art, great to see you, my friend. I really like what you're doing with old Big Richard. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I had a stinking suspicion that you'd end up buying that truck from Kiwi. Colorado Springs, 6,500. Yeah, you're about, I'm almost 6. So you're a little higher up yet from me. But other than that, what you all been working on this past week? Yeah, old Philip, he's in Florida, and last I heard, it's illegal to kick a rock in Florida because they got tired of changing the highest peak sign. 6 feet, huh? Too bad Big Rich isn't getting the 292 flamethrower or firepower. 392 firepower. My good Lord, I need to wear my glasses when I do this. Have no fear, the drugster's here. Great to see you, Doug. Old McDonald has a car. Great to see you, man. And then we got the other half of Mr. Lars JV's. What's going on, man? Rock? There are no rocks here, only sand. Yeah, see what I mean? It was like trying to put the highest peak sign on a soccer field, chasing that ball around. Good friend of mine was in Deer Lodge, Florida. I think I told you that already. He's the one that told me that joke about the highest peak sign in Florida. But he's on the other side. He's over there by kind of by Fort Lauderdale, kind of. Or he was. He lives up here in Idaho now. Has anyone ever seen a Y block intake for a 2-barrel carb? There's plenty of 3x2s, but I want a 2x2. Man, if you could afford the shipping, I'd send one to you. And if not me, old Walt's down in our classic junkyard, he's got a plethora of them. But what Y block? I've got one for a 239 and then one for everything else. 272, 292, 312. That's the problem with that little itty bitty 239. It takes its own intake because of the goofy way on a Y block, instead of the intake ports going this way, they turn them sideways and they're stacked on top of each other. These two go in and they do a 90 inside of the head and turn down into the valve. Arguably, they don't flow too bad because your air charge goes straight down once it once it makes that goofy drop onto the valve. But because of that design where they turned them sideways like this and stacked those two ports on top of each other, on the 272, 292, 312, they're farther apart and a lot bigger. $272? Yeah, I got one. But it weighs quite a bit. I'm all the way over here in Idaho. I have no idea how I'd ship it to you. And that one is a 4-bolt. It's not the Holley 94. That's another drawback of the Holley of the 239. It's got the 3-bolt. It's almost the same thing as a Stromberg. John Wilburn, what's going on? See, full representation. Known the father of the no-name Nationals. Great to see you, man. Isn't the ball always the top of the peak? Would be awesome with two Stromberg 97s, you betcha. I collect those little things. That's my favorite carburetor, is the Stromberg 97s. The new version, they're not bad. The Super 7s. Yeah, my email's on my channel description too. You just hit the little "I'm not a robot" and it'll show it to you there. Send me an email. Like I said, I've never done shipping like that, but and it's pretty heavy, so be prepared. If you can wait it and know where it's going, I can get you a discount shipping quote or even print your label. Oh, really? Maybe we'll have to coordinate with that. Does nothing special. What's going on? Great to see you, man. Get caught up here on the chat a little bit. Let's see. There, that's easier to see. I had the screen shrunk up there a little bit. John Wilburn's one of the best guys you ever could meet. Then, if any of you want a chance to meet John in person, it's pretty doggone easy. All you got to do is show up at the No Name Nationals in Sikeston, Missouri. Oh, Lord. Go over and check out John's channel, and he's got the little orange ticket piece of paper. That's how many days you got left before you can meet him in person. And pretty much everybody in the chat here. No Name Nationals is just one great event. You spend more time making friends, swapping stickers, swapping stories. You won't even realize the drag racing's going on the track. Because the hardest thing to do at the No Name Nationals is walk 20 feet. Within that 20 feet, 10 people are going to stop you and say, "Hey, how you doing? I haven't seen you. Oh, good. It's good to meet you." Takes 3 hours to walk the length of the pit, and it's not very long. It's only an 8-mile track. But if any of you can make it, even if you can't bring a car, if you can just come as a spectator, you're treated like anybody else. Everybody on the participants, we're all equal. Everybody just mingles and hangs out in the pits. Then we all meet up at Lambert's, the official meetup at Lambert's. We just take over the whole restaurant, and the restaurant is huge. But we all sit down, have supper together. Great time. But everybody shows up at Lambert's. It's good food. Everybody shows up at Lambert's every night. So if you miss the big one, just all you got to do is just show up there, and you'll see all of us mingling in and out of there. We got our view from Mr. What's going on, Dave? I see a full race inline 6 that had a wane head and a cam chest cover and a log intake manifold with 5 Strombergs on top. Yeah, that's probably the 302. The old 302 Stowbolt GMC 6. haven't seen one with the Wayne head on them. Stock head cut, oh, what was it? 30 thousandths off the head, and well, I can't remember what the deck was cut. We did one up for a really good friend of ours. Same thing, 5 Strombergs on it. And when you run multiple carbs like that, it's actually easier than a lot of people think. It runs off the center one all the time. The other 4, the 2 in front and the 2 in the back, those are just secondaries. And then you run them on a progressive linkage, so they don't come in until at pull you're about half throttle. You can adjust them however you want to adjust them to come in when you want them to come in. Generally about half throttle. And then it kicks all 5 of them in. And the way it's configured on there, you get more equal distribution to all your cylinders that way. Wayne speed parts were expensive back in the day. Probably why I'd never heard of them. Or never seen them anyway. A lot like that Aussie speed stuff. Woof. Here in the States, to get it up here, ouch, hurts. According to the GPS altitude app I just downloaded, I'm 891 feet above sea level. I'm just a little bit higher than that. Where I'm at, I'm actually down in the valley. So, and then you go anywhere but south of me, and you climb in altitude pretty good. My sister, she's about 35, 45 minutes away from me, in a little town of Moore, Idaho. And she's up about 65, 62, 65. Cousin Mike, what's going on? Great to see you. I'm 6 feet above the dirt. That's all I worry about anymore. Ah, you're right down there close to sea level too, huh, Slow Shop? Boy, that little short I did on that Y block, just that little simple mod where you plug off the drain tubes. It's an old trick for getting once you do it, man, your rockers turn right into rainbirds. And your oil pressure comes up because, well, on that Y block, Ford, like I said in that short, Ford forgot to put the cap on the bottle on him. Your oil just picks up from the oil pump, goes to it's a bad design. It's just a really bad design. Anyway, it goes to the crank, and then from there, jumps up to the camshaft, and then fills up the rocker shaft, and it's supposed to pressurize, but instead of pressurizing, it's just got these little drain back tubes that drain the oil back into the valley, and then there's these canal dam things that run down, cast right into the valley. that kind of directs the oil down over your distributor drive, gear, and the timing chain. But you throw those two caps in there, well, that's why it never oiled up on the rockers, and it wouldn't oil your valves. It'd take valve stems out like no tomorrow. That was the biggest, most common thing with those. Once you do that, they burst into like I said, like lawn sprinklers. Then you couple that with they were non-PCV, and they just had the draft tube, and they didn't run any detergent in the oils back then, so everything would clog up with carbon and get just nasty. It would wipe them Y blocks right out. But you do that, and there's actually two ways to do it. The one I show you in the short, that one's pretty hardcore because you block it clear off. The other one is that guys would do is you take that drain tube out. There's, like I said, there's two of them, one on the front and one on the other side. It's in the back, so it drains on the distributor because Ford put the distributor in the back on the Y block. Anyway, you pull those tubes out and you braze them shut. And you just fill it full of braze and just weld them shut. Then you drill them out for whatever size orifice you want to continue to get a little oil onto your timing chain and distributor drive. If you're still driving them like 3-4 hour trips at a time, that's probably a better way to go. Yep, you're back there and where my family originally came from. I used to know some Swedish words, but I don't even want to attempt it. Pass the butter was the first phrase I learned. It's a splash setup. Make sure you roll the car once a week so you get it all it gets all lubed. Was the Y block a sling? No, it did have an oil pump. And it sets off it's kind of an external, a lot like a Mopar. It sits in the back of the block towards the driver's side and then it's got because there's actually a reason for the way the Y block is designed. It's half baked. The whole design is half baked. They had it set up for a specific purpose, and then they had to do a drastic chassis adjustment, and the chassis division took all the budget for it. So the engine guys, they had to come up with a make it work kind of stuff. It was originally slated to be a rear sump car engine, but like I said, they had a massive problem with the shoebox Ford, and right about that time is when Ford was gearing up to launch the overhead valve, the Y block. Well, they had to do some serious chassis adjustments, and the way that they fixed it, it put the steering arm right over, like, and put it right where the oil pan sump was supposed to be. So to correct that, or to get around that, the engineers in the engine department, and to do it on the cheap side, they changed it to a front sump, basically by flipping the oil pump around, because it's almost the same dimensions. Almost. You can't do it. Don't try to do it. But they're almost able to just flip them around. So they put the sump in the front, and then they run an external tube off of it comes off the oil pump on the outside and goes over and then back in and down into the oil pan for the front sump. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it because I would butcher it. Thanks, Slow Shop. I know Swedish fish pretty well. I used to love those little things. I only know one Swedish word. Lutefisk. Justin Hill, what's going on? Great to see you. How's the weather up there north from me? Justin, he just lives 1, 2, 3, 4 towns up from me. Maybe 5 if you count the little towns that hardly exist anymore. All of you know IKEA's Swedish. Yeah, it's a store I avoid. I know Volvo. They build Volvo trucks down the road from me here. Oh, sweet. Ah, we got Dean back. Looks like he went through a dark zone. I still can't get over driving on that side. I could probably get used to it, but shifting, how do you guys shift? There's no way I could make my left hand work on a gear shifter. That takes some skill right there. I know a lot of racers that would, like at Le Mans, that when they race on, they've got the steering wheel on that side. They put the shifter in the door pan, the rocker panel, because we just can't get the hang of that. Ooh. Sticka Opa of Bada. That sounds right. I think. Yeah, we've been stormy down here south too. Most of it skips by me, and then it looks like it's hitting you. The way it rolls in off of the lava flows out there. Generally speaking, it does that. It kind of hangs over the lava flows, and then it hits idle falls, and then dives over and nails you guys. We just get the wind. Sweet dreams, y'all. Thanks for coming in, Slow Shop. You know you're more than welcome anytime, man. Send me the email. Like I said, I got a couple of them. The 4-barrel one I'm kind of holding on to, though. I got one of them. But those little 2-barrel ones, yeah. If we can figure out shipping, I'll be more than happy to send it to you. And let me know how to do that too, because if I just give it to you, you shouldn't have to pay any duty taxes, custom taxes, and all that stuff. I'd hate for you to have to pay any of that on it anyway. Shipping alone is going to be a whole lot more than it's worth for me, so. Buff Del Campo, what's going on, man? Good to see you. And the rear view mirror is high on the left side. That really messes with me. And Buff, congratulations again on getting monetized. Way to go, man. You've really put in the work and it's showing. I love those little tool shorts of yours. You're waiting on a load of horses? Uh-oh, they all coming in to you tonight? I figured you was busy doing something because you didn't show up about lunchtime. Email sent, sure. I'll take a look at it just as soon as the live's over. Twisted Mopar's Garage, what's going on, man? Great to see you. Did the car sell? Of course, like you said, the car, oh, it's beautiful. If any of you haven't checked out Twisted Mopar's Garage yet, go check him out. He's got one beautiful Mopar. But like you said, that one's a little on the radical side. Be nice to get something that you can just drive around town, go to cruise nights, and then maybe take to the track every once in a while. Dedicated race cars, yeah, they can be kind of tough. One of my Canadian friends bought parts in the States and brought them into Canada himself. The lady working the border wanted to know the value of the car once it was finished with these third party. To pay duties on that, that's just, my opinion, that stuff is just flat wrong. If anything, maybe a handwritten receipt or something on used parts. But to tax it all on what's the car worth when it's all done, who knows? It could be 10 years before you get the car on the road. How do you know? Got 4 coming in. Had to make up stalls for 2. Other 2 going outside. Oh, that's where you were, huh? You went down, went fishing. Did you go back up Gem Lake? Watching green driving, and I'm expecting to see a long-haired kid on a boomerang with a boomerang sitting next to Gibson in a fuel tanker. Yeah, it's all desert over there. In New Zealand, look how green it is. That's the beauty of mountains. It gives the clouds long enough to mature. They can give you a little rain, make it all green. Australia, good Lord, that's a lot of flat desert there. You'll be doing the After Tony show? Ari is in business trip, huh? Oh, sweet. You're taking over Ari's spot for the week, huh? Keeping the torch burning for him. I'll probably hop in and check it out a little bit. I got a whole bunch of cleanup to do out there just as soon as the live's over, though. I got my battery charger on the battery because, well, I got to use that battery in the morning to start the backhoe. And I done run it down pretty good, trying to get that 460 to start. Let's see, we'll get caught back up here. BareRose just has dedicated lawn art waiting for the burnout car. The problem is I spend too much time over my dad's. I don't spend enough time over working on my own stuff. And you've seen in the thumbnail, that's a little bit of all the ones we have gotten completed and done. Some of them. There's still a few that didn't make that photo. Been looking at a couple of 66 satellites. Oh, sweet. 66s. Those are about the year. Yeah, those are the years that what's his name? Oh, I'll think of it in a minute. When Virgil, I don't know, did Virgil Eckner, did he get fired or did he just retire? I don't know. But the designer of the Lincoln went to work for Mopar, for Chrysler, and that's when the satellites kind of, I don't know, I like them. They're more straight, more like everybody else's stuff. But the 66 satellites, 66 Plymouth Furies, they're pretty good looking cars. What the heck was his name? He worked for Ford. He was one of the whiz kids. Who helped Henry Ford II run Ford Motor Company when Edsel died. His dad, Edsel. They all came from the military. Because Henry II was way too young to run a company that size, and well, it was 41. Right after we got attacked, Edsel died of stomach cancer. So the government stepped in and he was in the Navy. Edsel, yeah, he was in the Navy, I believe. Or Henry II. Pulled him out of the Navy, put him back stateside, put him back in charge, while the crazy old man kind of took back over, Henry Sr., and then stacked a whole bunch of other military personnel. They called them the Whiz Kids, down with him as a group to keep Ford Motor Company up and pushing out tanks and everything that they could for the war effort. Cool story, because it's that little time period in there, really cool stuff to read about. And Henry Ford at that time, whew, Henry Sr., he was a little bit he wanted to go back to building Model Ts. Yeah, and after his heart attack, they say that's when he got really crazy. That's when his designs really went whoosh, way out the window. Chrysler from about 60 all the way to 64, 65. They got pretty different. The introduction of the forward look. Eckner was a chain-smoking, hard-drinking workaholic. Yep. I still have that Ford motor I need to get out of that boat and get rid of. Woo. Marine block. It's not a dove-headed 460, is it? Mama M, what's going on? Great to see you. How's Half Pint coming along? And there we go. Ed's Machine. What's going on? Great to see you, man. Oh, I'm way behind. Jason's Garage and RV Repair. That's hard to get used to. I still think of Jason's Garage Inc. I like the new logo, man. That really looks good and tight. There we go. Get caught up here. Barely afford this one. I did make it so I can add on easily. Oh, cool. Good to see you, DJ Truth. Let's see. I don't know. It is a 460, I believe. Way cool. Pull the spark plug wires back right below the valve cover, and right there on top between the, well, it's on either side, between number 2 and number 3, or number 4 and number 5 exhaust ports. It's right up front there. It'll tell you what they are, and what you're looking for is DOVE-C. And they used them on the well, actually, that's not a Ford. It's actually a Berkeley. It's made by Ford. But it's Ford's Marine Division. But if it's that, it'll have the Cobra Jet intake on it. Probably the Cobra cam, but it doesn't have the Cobra heads. Unless you get real lucky. And there's only 2 of them. Part numbers, whoa, Ed could tell you for sure, but one, D1VE-R or RR, and then D00E- I forget the what comes after the dash. Anyway, those 2 are actual Cobra Jet or Super Cobra Jet heads, but they only made 500 of them. So finding them is like, especially finding them that haven't been really messed with or burnt or just flat abused to all get out, dang near impossible. Usually what you find is doves. All the C means at the end of dove, the dash C, Cleveland. They were made in Cleveland. But if you get a set of doves and you take them to somebody like Ed's machine here, and especially Ed knows those heads inside and out. He can make you Cobra Jets out of doves. It can be done, and it's costs a little bit, but not near as you can take an old set of doves, turn them in, or even better than the stock Cobra Jets, and save you a whole bunch of money. And Ed does real good work. And the years in the Marine, they go all through. You find them in the 80s, clear up into the mid 80s or so. Even beyond that. Boats and motorhomes in them time period kind of had a lot of leeway when it came to smog and everything. So they would use those, and they were still building them. They kept reusing those old castings. They just kept pumping them out for marine use, RV use. But after 72, Ford Motor Company took a nosedive. For dealership horsepower. Yeah, and like I said, if you see them on there, and then you can advertise it around to the Ford crowd, they'll know what that is, and yeah, you might get a little better money out of it. And then you can put it towards that 66 satellite that you got your eyeball on. The dove heads will not have the big intake port, but will work better. Exactly, because big block Ford, even the D3 heads, the intake ports on them are just absolutely huge. You can almost stick your fist in there and grab a hold of the valve. That's how big the intake ports on them. On the small heads are. In the old days, we referred to the GTXs as Jet X's. I always liked the GTXs. Where they fell apart on was the exhaust side. And really, going back to the Y block had it figured out on the exhaust side. It's the only Ford engine that breathes perfect on the exhaust side. Ford has always struggled with the exhaust. And the 385 series, big block Ford, 429, 460s. Yeah, they need work on the exhaust side. And it's because they use head bolts. Like I said in that short of mine, quite a while back, they used telephone poles for head bolts. What are they? 7/16 bolt? They are freaking huge, and they torque at 140, between 145 and 155 foot-pounds. Because of that, they got a bolt that's like that big around, and it goes right through the exhaust port. So that chokes it up. It's got to kind of come out and go around that head bolt. And the way that it exits out, there's a nice little cavity in there. And but again, go back and watch Ed's video where he takes a set of those dove heads to a guy that very much understands them, a very good head man. And I put the link to that video on my community page for him. Very good stuff. Yeah, with a little bit of work, those things will make over 1,000 horsepower. I raced a 65 Coronet for several years. Sweet. I had to sell my 63 440 Coronet. 440 is just the number designation. It wasn't the biggest Coronet. That was the 880. Mine was just below that. Nice car. Had the 318 Poly in it, but it sat in a little home-built garage for decades, and the garage fell down on it, collapsed around it, and when it did, a beam come down and broke the windshield out of it. So it needed a windshield, and I could not find a windshield for a 63 Dodge 440 four-door sedan. Other than that, the car was absolutely clean. And that 318 poly just ran smooth as butter. And even with that little itty bitty little 2-barrel, BBD carburetor on it, that thing had mountains of torque. Probably only made maybe 150 horsepower, maybe 170, maybe two. I don't even think it was 200 horsepower out of those 318 polys with the 2-barrel on it. But it had enough torque to pull that car like you would not believe. You'd think it had something a lot bigger in it. I always thought Ford's big issue was the rods. I haven't had any trouble with Ford rods. Pontiacs and Oldsmobiles, yeah. Of course, when you do anything but stock with them, Pontiac rods will actually last the whole engine life. Well, any rod will last the whole engine life. When a rod comes out the side of the block, that's the end of its life. But in stock form, they did all right. It's just when you start hammering on them, trying to make them better. We had a bunch of huge Ford guys that would call their GTA and GT goats. It's always confused the crap out of me. I did do a video a while back on where the term Coyote comes from. It's actually a Ford part number. C0TE. It's like everybody just called them coyotes, and it just in slang terms, kind of like dove heads. And it goes back to the Y block. That was the casting number of the heads that you looked for and the intake you looked for, coupled with the little F on the VIN tag. The little F on the VIN tag, man, it came with the Paxton supercharger with it. I remember torquing those 429 heads. Yeah, you got to put the big boy pants on to torque big block Ford heads. Eat your Wheaties good and full that morning because you're going to use them. I've been over 160 miles an hour in a 67 GTX many times. I did a video on, when I got caught going a little too fast in a in a big block Ford. I have no idea how fast I was going, but I was under heavy brake for quite a while when before the county sheriff zapped me with the radars. I flew through the underpass. When he zapped me, it was 146. I'm kind of glad he was hiding under the underpass. He would have zapped me for a lot more if he would have been on the other side. Didn't matter none. As soon as I seen him, I pulled right over. He didn't even have to turn his lights on. I knew I was had. I went 100 miles an hour around Rockingham, around Chag, in a 66 Hemi Charger. with red lines on it and 4 people in it. There is a track in Las Vegas, just outside of Las Vegas, that you can do that in. It's on the west side of Vegas, not the actual NASCAR speedway, but they got another one just west of there, just before you get to Brim. You ready for fall? Oh, heavens no. But it's coming. Good Lord, it was only what? I think it was 46 degrees this morning when I woke up. It's definitely taking a turn. I looked at a 66, had a Poly 318 stroked out to a 335. Oh, sweet. If it's got the 4-barrel intake on it, snag that sucker right on up. That was another reason I kind of lost interest on that 63 is I looked and looked for, a good 3-4 years trying to find an intake that I could afford. Good night. When Wyand quit producing the aftermarket one for that, boy, the prices shot to the moon. I bought cars for as much money as they want for them aftermarket intakes for the 318 Poly. 2-barrel Poly was rated at 230. Oh, sweet. Doesn't sound like a lot of horsepower, but they were packing a lot of torque. I think it had to do with the way they lay away over. A 318 Poly looks like a big block. Everybody that opened the hood went, whoa, what size is that? No, it's 318. They're just massive and huge. With the little bitty little teeny tiny little 2-barrel carburetor sitting on top. Craziest thing you ever see. I have Belt 460 385 series, poor man's stroker, offset grind, and use 440 Mopar rods. Bush the rods, 990 pins, BRC pistons, Lunati cam, Dove heads. It makes it out to a 492 with a 444 bore. Good Lord, I really need to get my glasses in here. I know where they are. They're sitting right out there on my table, right next to the car. I was working on before I ran in here. A guy from southern Michigan by State Line saved an air-cooled Franklin. Wow. It dinged the fender and broke a headlight. Took him a month to get the car liberated. Wow. That rat rod I was doing, I called it 46 and 2 because it was a 46 coupe nose, Ford coupe nose, and I stuck it on a 48 Ford pickup. So I call it 46 and 2, 48. But I had a Studebaker bed on the back of it, and I had to dig that bed out of a collapsed spud cellar. Same thing. The rest of the truck was under there too, but the cab and the whole nose piece of that truck are gone, unsalvageable. And the bed, well, he told me I could have the bed if I dug it out, and it was worth it. Barely. It was beat all. The fenders were smashed completely shut. But I straightened them out, and rat rod straightened them out. They were still pretty rough, but they cleared the tire, so that was all I cared about. A guy from, oh, whoops. There we go. Catch the right one there. DJ Truth, got to run. Y'all have a good night. Great seeing you, DJ. Come on back in anytime. $140 foot-pounds. Yeah. Yeah, they book out at 145 to 155. I think that last set I did, I'd stopped at 145. That was plenty good. And by the time I was done with that, I was wore out. 5-block heads. I remember the good heads. EC, how did you remember that? ECZ-Gs. Yep. You look for those ones, those were 312s, 59. That was the last of the 59s. And then C0TE came in 60. Which were introduced in 59. That is weird how that works. Guys, think how fast we went back in the day with belted tires, polyglass tires. Tire technology has come miles away from where it was. Outlaw driving back in the day. There, get caught back up. In 69, a neighbor passed away and his wife didn't want his car sitting in the garage. 67 GTX convertible 440 Super Commando. Almost my favorite car. Did the 160 twice. The suspension just wasn't built for that speed. $1,000? Oh, back in 69? I don't have a favorite car, but the 68, 69 GTX Hemi car, hardtop Hemi car. Yeah, that one almost checks every single box I have, except for the price tag. So I'll never ever own one. And I wouldn't want to either. That'd be a car I never drove. 57 312 heads. Yep. They were kind of the first throwaway engine. Yeah, you used to be able to pick them up for next to nothing. Most people would pull them out and put an FE in their place. And an FE goes in there pretty good. So just like the 305 small block Chevy, you know, people were yanking those things out, running and driving, nothing wrong with them. People yank them things out, put a 350 in its place, and you could pick those things up like those old Y blocks for the get it out of my shop kind of price. I ended up with a lot of them. And when you get something for free, you can afford to do stuff with it. Traded it on my 72 Demon because the insurance company came after the muscle cars back then. Yeah, missed that car. That's why they started fudging them horsepower numbers. You know, you open up a book and what them horsepower numbers are telling you, yeah, they're on the low side. All of them. It doesn't matter who made it. Mopar, GM, Fomoco, didn't matter. They all fudge them numbers way down on the pleasant side. Granted, the lower control arm bushings are good in the Mopar. That always baffled me with a Mopar. The size of that lower control arm. They're tiny. Little tiny. I'm used to Ford, overbuilt, built Ford tough, and Chevy. They're huge. They're huge and they're thick. Mopar, a little bitty stick coming down. That's good enough. Of course, then they got the torsion bar on it, and makes it all work. We'd get the old 390 FE engines, bore them 80 over, and make it into a 406. Then put on a tri-power manifold. Woo! I love those things in a 57 Ford. It wasn't too expensive back in the day, back in the early 70s. Oh man. The body shop guy that lives right by my dad, he's retired now. He's got a 57 Ford hardtop Galaxy, or Fairlane 500. Not a Galaxy. Galaxy came in the 60s. It's identical to the car he had in high school that he lost. So he bought this one to make it as close to that car as he possibly could. But he pulled the Y block out of it and stuck a 360 in it. That's the only thing different. It's just a bone stock 360. He didn't do anything crazy. But the Y block he pulled out of it had that tri-carb setup. I could have slapped him. And he sold it. He sold it all for, I think he sold that old Y block for $500. And he converted the car over to an automatic. It was a 3-on-3 car. I liked the car. Put the top down, got the girls back then. I used to like convertibles till I had my little MG. And I drove it from Boise, Idaho to John Day, Oregon. It's about an hour and a half drive. Easy, nice drive. But I did it in August with no top on the car. Oh Lord, when I got home, I was so sunburnt on the top of my head. I had one blister that just what started about here on the back of my head came all the way around and swelled my eyes shut. It was just I looked like an alien. You could push on it, and it was after that top stayed on that little MG. Going across the desert and a convertible, when you're a little thin on top as it is, can't put a hat on because with long hair too, I had it all back in a ponytail. Otherwise, the wind on the MG would come around and you get a backdraft and all your hair goes up here like this and you can't see nothing. So the top of my head just got toasty fried. I was sick for about a good week. And after that, yep, I put the hard top up on that car and it stayed on. That was a 73 MGB. One of the first years of the Naders. It had the big rubber bumpers on it. Let's see, get caught back up here. Y-block tri-power manifolds were around. The carb came from 56 Mercs. I've got the carbs for them, those little Holly 94s. You buy the carbs in picking yards for $2 each. Yeah, I hit old Walt up and for everyone that I could find out there. And through Speedway, you can still get the secondary kits for them. Takes the choke off and converts them into secondary carbs. You can get them for them and the Rochesters. Rochester 2G. I collect them up too. But I've only got 2 Rochesters right now. Still looking for that one more. On the 312s, I think so. I don't remember any 292s with the tri-power. I could be wrong. Or the 2.4s. They had that too. But the 2.4s were mostly on the Mells. No, that is by far my favorite engine. 430 Mel with 2.4s on it. Boy, see what happens when you get to talking like that? That it just time just whizzes on by. 57 was a good year for Big 3 style in general. They all were good, especially the 57 DeSoto Adventurer. I like the 57, 58, and 59 DeSotos. I don't know. I was always partial to them. My favorite car of all times, and I almost got it, was a 53 DeSoto Fire Dome Coupe. And to this day, I tell my dad he owes me a dang Hemi because it had the Hemi in it the first year. All it needed was a battery and the driver's side window. Somebody had broke the window out of it. It wasn't even broke out of it. You know, they're laminated glass. So it was just baseball cracked and sitting out in the field. Rode my bicycle. I delivered papers in my little hometown, and I saved up all the money I could, and that car come up for sale, and I pedaled my bike all the way across the river out to go look at it, and I had my dad meet me there, and he wanted $700 for the car. $700. All I had was $500 on me at the time, and Dad wouldn't loan me the extra $200 for that car. He said, "No, if you buy, there's no way." I was only 12 years old. 12, almost 13. Didn't even have a driver's license yet. I was going to get it, and then I was just going to fix it up before I drove it. But we met Carlson. He knows my dad. He's a farmer over across the river. We met Carlson there, and my dad showed up, and he told me, "Yeah, there ain't no way a kid's gonna have a Hemi, even though it was the baby Hemi. They don't really make a lot of horsepower." But he told me not only that, they haven't made DeSoto in over 10 years or 20 years. So if you wreck this thing, it's done. You're not going to be able to fix it. But the guy had a 61 Volkswagen Bug sitting off over by the ditch. And Dad asked him, "Well, how much you want for that?" And he said, "Well, it's about the same, $500. So Dad didn't have to loan me any money for it. $500, that's all I had. I went ahead and bought that little Bug from him. The engine, the little 1200 Volkswagen engine, was all tore apart and in the back seat. But at that time, we had quite a few Volkswagens. Dad really knew Volkswagens inside and out. He had a picture of a Volkswagen on his sign. So we had a bunch of that parts. So I bought that to put that together. Never did. I ended up reselling it much later. Well, about 2 years later, I sold it to another friend of mine. After I got my actual first car, it was my first running car. That Volkswagen was actually my first car, but I never got it running. My first official running car was a 72, 73. Good Lord, it's been too long ago. Little Pinto sedan. Had the little trunk, not a hatchback. And it had 12-inch wide tires on the back. Little 14-inch super wide tires on little, well, they were 10-inch wide slot mags. Little 14s. I don't know where in the heck he got them tires from. Little skinnies up front. They weren't slicks. They were, they were a radial tire. And it had a big whale tail spoiler bolted to the top of the car. And it was painted black. Oh, that was the craziest looking little Pinto. And I blew it up right in front of the shop doing burnouts. The day I bought it. We got that little thing a running. Oh, it smoked so it was done. The guy had put a water injection on it that he converted to a hydrogen peroxide injection. One of those kits you got off of J.C. Whitney back in the 80s, 70s, 80s. And they were kind of okay as long as they kind of okay worked, uh, but it went fat and sucked all that hydrogen peroxide into a cylinder, hydrolocked, and yeah, it had a dead hole. But it didn't totally blow it out the side. And it was sitting at this guy's place up at the end of Sand Creek Road, a farm out there. And he'd given the car to his dad. He went to the military. Yeah, he joined the Navy and he was gone. Told his dad just get rid of the car. And he had me tear down a barn for that car. I tore down the barn, stacked all the steel up, steel siding, and pulled down all of the framework and stacked it all up for this guy. He gave me the car. And I got it running and drove it home. It was about probably a 10-mile trip. Then I decided, well, it's got to be rebuilt anyway, and I'd never blown a car up, so let's see how many burnouts we can do before she lets go. And she chirped the tires a little bit, and then boom, then she was done. And it was fun. Then we hooked onto it, pulled it into the shop, and it was also the first car I ever rebuilt. And that's why I sold the Volkswagen, was to pay for the rebuild on that, just to get it running. I found a little air-cooled VW yard in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Oh, sweet. There for the longest time, there was a lot of yards around here. Just people's yards that had quite a few of those little Volkswagen Bugs. Oh. Well, with that, we've been on for about an hour and a half. I think we'll call her good for this week. Thanks a million for everybody that's stopping in the chat. Dean, always great to see your view from the great down under there. You're more than welcome in here any old time, man. Just absolute beautiful scenery. Anyway, everybody, have a great week and see what you can do to get out there and get some metal hot this week. And again, if you haven't checked out the No Name Nationals, go over to John Wilburn's channel and go through there. He's got all the links and everything. I'm pretty sure all you guys know about it. But if you can, like I said, even if you don't have a car to make it there, if you can just fly in, rent a car to go to the track, you'll meet some of the best people you've ever met in your whole life. And everybody there is a friend. Everybody there is just like Brian from Dust Devil's Garage says, it's a family reunion that you all really want to go to. And it's a whole bunch of fun. Hope to see you all there. And meantime, get out there and get some metal hot. And we'll catch you on the next one. Next week. Next week will probably be on Saturday. Probably. Anyway, we'll catch you next week. Thanks for coming, everybody.